Great, thank you. So welcome everyone. Our Region 7 Presents topic for today is citizen science at the library for homeschool students. Thank you for being here. My name is Benny Finch and I am one of the education and outreach coordinators for the network of the National Library of Medicine in Region 7. I am joined by my colleague Sarah Levin-Letterer, who will be helping me manage the chat today. This webinar is being recorded on June 2nd, 2026. So before our presentation, I briefly want to introduce the network, also known as NNLM. The NNLM regional medical libraries are funded by the National Library of Medicine, which is within the National Institutes of Health. We are the education and outreach arm of the National Library of Medicine. We work regionally, getting to know communities on the ground and helping those communities serve the people they know best. Region 7 includes those states in the top right of the map: Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Our office is located at the UMass Chan Medical School in Worcester, Mass. We are also present across the entire country, and we work to advance the health and well-being of everyone through access and understanding of how to use health information. One of the ways that NNLM has been supporting health information access is through funding. Today's presentation features three presenters from public libraries who will be talking about the citizen science kits they received from NNLM Region 7. We invited them to share about their experience today as they all mentioned their work with homeschoolers. So we're looking forward to hearing from them today. A few details as we get started. Captioning is available by clicking the Show Captions button. Today's session is being recorded. We'll be sending out the recording to all registrants within the next couple of weeks. During the session, please do add your questions to the chat, and we are going to hold all those questions for our Q&A section. Send questions and replies to everyone just to make sure that we can all see your question. Today's presentation is eligible for MLA CE. At the end of today's session, we're going to share an evaluation link, and that is the first step in claiming continuing education credit. And whether you would like the credit or not, we do value your feedback, so please complete that if you are able. So I will begin the session with some background information. I'll begin the session with some background information and then I'm going to hand it over to our presenters. But these are our learning objectives for today. We will discuss what citizen science is. We will think about ways to support science learning for youth with a special focus on the needs of homeschool students. And finally, we will describe best practices for introducing citizen science into libraries and circulating collections. So citizen science, also known as community science or crowdsourced science, is basically bringing volunteers from the general public to participate in research by sharing observations and data from their area. We often hear about projects such as sharing observations or photos of plants or bird counts or insects. Citizen science projects are an innovative way to connect individuals and communities to projects that could benefit from robust data collection. So through community science, people can be engaged in programs that directly improve their community's health outcomes and learn about science concepts and scientific research in the process. Citizen science is broad in scope and can be used to better understand environmental factors that can influence human health, including physical, chemical, and biological factors that are external to a person. Collectively, those are referred to as environmental determinants of health. Citizen science efforts allow communities to engage with science as well as contribute to a broad project that looks at environmental health factors in their community. So between October 1st of 2024 and April 1st of 2025, Region 7 provided 45 citizen science kits to NNLM members in our region. This award was designed to support programmatic outreach in under-resourced communities with themed kits that address exploring biodiversity, observing pollinators, or monitoring air quality. The purpose of the award was to support citizen science initiatives that raise awareness of the environmental determinants of health and participatory science in their community. Today, our presenters will discuss their interest in applying for the kits, the process of implementing those citizen science kits, as well as other kits in their collections. And we're going to talk about how these relate to their goals for their libraries. So, our presenters for today are Barb Raymeyer, Cindy Jewett, and Nicole Govro. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves in just a second and their libraries. And then after their presentations, again, there will be a moderated discussion, and then I've allotted time for your questions. So again, please add your questions to the chat, and we will discuss those during our Q&A time. And now I am going to hand it over to Barb, but I need to bring up some slides. Uh, Thank you for your patience. Um, Almost there. Okay.
Well, while Benny's pulling up the slides, oh, here they come. I'll introduce myself. I am the library director of Liberty Library in Liberty, Maine. And I am the only paid person at the library, and I am a retired teacher. And I work 2 days a week at the library. So it's very part-time. Liberty has about 1,000 people, but we also serve Montville, Maine, which also has 1,000. So together we serve about 2,000 people. And if you know where Augusta is in Maine and you know where Belfast is on the coast, Liberty is about halfway between the two places. Do you want other people to introduce themselves, Benny, or do you want me to just go through the slides that I created?
Sorry. Yeah, let's let each person introduce themselves and then we'll come back. Thank you,
Okay.
Barb. So how about Nicole? Could you introduce yourself next?
Sure. My name is Nicole Govro. I am the Youth Services Librarian and Assistant Director of Maxfield Public Library in Loudon, New Hampshire. Loudon is just outside the capital of Concord, New Hampshire. We have a population of around 5,700 people, and we have four homeschooling co-ops in our town of under 6,000 people. So that is to say, we have a lot of very enthusiastic homeschoolers who come to the library a lot. We're open 36 hours a week, and I am one of the only two full-time people, so more than Barb has in Liberty, but we do also have part-timers.
Thanks, Nicole. And Cindy, are you able to introduce yourself?
Can you see me and hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So my name is Cindy Jewett. I'm a library director in the small town of Antrim, New Hampshire. We're 2,600 people. We have a lot of homeschoolers, and I'm the only full-time one here. We are a very small rural library, so I think the nearest larger community is about 45 minutes away. So with our homeschoolers, we have quite a few. So anything we can get to help them helps us so much because it's very difficult to support some of their curriculum with our small budgets. So that's why we applied for the kit as well.
Great. Thank you so much,
You're
Cindy.
welcome.
So I'm going to circle back to everyone, but we're going to go back to Barb right now, and I'm going to mute myself. And just let me know when you need me to advance the
Yeah,
slides.
I was just getting ready to say, can you advance the slide?
Yes.
So, Liberty Library started, we call them discovery kits, and we started creating discovery kits in 2014. We have about 40 of them right now. I say about because some are halfway done and some are on their way out, but that's 40 is really about the limit of our storage space. So I asked the homeschool families that come to the library and take out the kits if they would write me something about how they use the kits. So this is what one person wrote. And the very hungry caterpillar I created when it was 50 years old, I believe. And it is probably the kit we have for the youngest kids. I think like 3 to 5 because you're not supposed to have 12-year-olds in that caterpillar tunnel. Plus, I don't think they'd be all that interested in it. Um, I'll let you read the screen. I don't need to read it for you. I guess go advance to the next screen, please. This is another homeschool parent that wrote how why she appreciated the kits. And the one thing that I really appreciate with this one is that she really appreciated how each of the kits have activities for the whole family. Some things for the youngest kids in the family and for the older kids in the family. Um, I do try to do that. They're usually a mixture of games and activities as well as books and DVDs, although DVDs are kind of on their way out now. Next slide. So in 2016, maybe 18, something like that, um, we had a couple who were getting married and they asked for donations to the Liberty Library um, to be given instead of gifts. And with that, I bought from Lakeshore Learning some STEM kits. One of them, which was the Billy Goat's Gruff. I really love fairy tales and I want kids to appreciate fairy tales. So having the fairy tales along with the STEM activities has been very popular. In this one, there's a bunch of blocks with it that have like Velcro on the outside, and you build a bridge. And of course, you take the first billy goat over the bridge. There's these little plastic figures. You take the first billy goat over the bridge, and then the bridge doesn't fall down. Then you try the second billy goat, the third billy goat, and finally the troll all get on the bridge and see if the bridge collapses or not. They're very well done. Next slide. This one I included because the kids actually in this family asked me to make a discovery kit about Arctic and Antarctic. So one of the things that a lot of the kits have and which are very popular with kids are the small plastic figures of animals. So I did get a bunch of Arctic and Antarctic animals, and then there's some Venn diagram circles which you could sort the animals between, do they live in the Arctic, do they live in the Antarctica, or do they live in both places, which is a popular one. But the figurines in like there's some for the farm animals, there's dinosaurs, those kind of things. They're very popular in many of the kits. And the next one. And I included this one because a 10-year-old boy wrote this one. And I love that he thinks that they're high quality. And you can basically, he's borrowed this kit probably a dozen times and just never seems to get bored with it. But this is his favorite for sure. Next slide. So when this opportunity came to get the air pollution kit, I applied for it. And this is a picture of what it looks like. It's not air pollution, it's called air quality, but it basically is about what particles are in the air. This is what it looks like. I added the air pollution book. Everything else came with it. I put it in a plastic case. You're not going to be able to see this because I'm not sharing my screen. So I was planning on, but it didn't work out. So anyway, this is what I put it in a plastic case, and on the front where it says please keep in at the desk, that's a list of everything that's in the kits. And I do that for all of the kits, and that's a really important piece of this. Um, and so that I can check, and volunteers, when they check this out, can go down the list, make sure everything's in it when it goes out. Parents can check everything when it comes back, when they pack it up to come back in. And we also check it when it comes back in. Um, Keeping items in a tub or backpack, I think, is very important. I also laminated all the pages for with directions and stuff, um, so they don't get torn. That seems to work really well. And if you have an activity that requires writing, you can use a dry erase marker with them. Um, and especially like for the animals, like the 13 dinosaurs, keep them in their own container. There's a bag with the 13 dinosaurs, so they're not scattered all over the place. Keeping items together, I think, is really important. And we do have a rule. You can go to the next slide. Before we leave that one, I should have said this. I always thought it would be a great idea for families to borrow this when they go on vacation and maybe go to a city and do some test of the air quality where they live and then at different places along the way to compare them. I haven't found anybody to do that yet, but I think it would make a great activity. Now we can go to the next slide. So here's an example of what I have on top of the kit as far as what directions and what's in the kit. And then there's this big sign at the library, do not open kits in the library. Please enjoy them at home because when they take them out of the library, all those pieces get scattered and get combined, and it's a real hassle to try to put them back together. Next slide. By the way, people don't always follow that sign, but um, I'm going to ask Benny to show our website, which is list all of the discovery kits that we have.
Okay, yes, I'm going to open that right now and I will share my screen again. Okay.
So there's the Liberty Library. That's what it looks like. It's the old fire station. And underneath children, this is where this page can be found. It describes a bit about the Discovery Kit. Uh, One thing that's made clear, kits are examined upon checkout and check-in, and the borrower will be charged a replacement cost for all missing or damaged parts. Some things can't be replaced, but we try to do the best we can. And if you just want to scroll down slowly, you can see the different kits that we have. Um, a lot of the kits have, just like this one, asked from other places. Then they donated them. Um, the ukulele was donated. So I made that into a kit. The vernal pools was donated by the Maine State Library. So there are places out there that you can find to get those. Can you scroll all the way down to the bottom?
Yes.
That's it. Okay, so this is the history of the whole thing. Um, and I guess that's really all I have to say. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. And I do like that saying, through hands-on learning, we will empower the next generation of innovators and leaders. And that's kind of the whole mission behind this whole project.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barb. I could not agree more. Um, so I will ask Cindy if you could share a little bit with us now.
Okay. All
Great.
right. So we received the biodiversity kit, and it is actually a lot of fun. And this fit really well into our community because we're very, like I said, small rural community. People go out hiking, a lot of people ski, a lot of people are outside a lot. So this gave families, and we marketed it, or we kind of advertised it as a family, like a day out. So it came with, if you can see, lenses for an iPhone and binoculars. We also got the binoculars and wildflowers and trees, and also a little notebook so the kids or the parents could take notes. So we kind of marketed it as a fun activity for a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, and it fit really well into our community. It's been checked out quite a bit. We also, our homeschoolers, um, we had a homeschool meetup where they kind of trained the library staff how homeschooling actually works, because none of us on staff have been to homeschool. We were all public schools. So they explained that they would have an afternoon where they would learn to build something or some kind of hands-on activity. So this kit fit so well into that. So they could go out, and it wasn't just the family going out, it was the group of kids that were homeschooled. They all kind of meet up and they all could participate in this. So it worked really, really well for us, and it's been very, very popular. Um, we also put everything that we have into containers. This one is see-through. Just lift it up like with a top on it. We do have the contents available for check-in, check-out, and there is a replacement cost on our catalog. So we have, for our catalog, we have Biblionics, and they have just upgraded a little area where you can do Library of Things. So there's a Library of Things catalog, and we're still working on it, but we do have the contents of the item. We also have the replacement cost. We do have the family, whenever they take out a kit, they have to sign a waiver, and then we put the replacement cost on there so they know, like they really have to be careful. They have to check everything in on their side and bring it back. And if they do lose something, if they can purchase another one for us, we'll allow them to do that instead of the whole cost. And as Barb was saying, we purchased items from Lakeshore Learning as well, and those have been very popular with a lot of the kids. Our most popular item that we have is the Pet Vet. So they get they get this little container, they bring their pet in, and they have little shots for the pet, but they have their little pet vet, and that's been very popular. Also, a little doctor's kit, which we only allow them to use in the library because they definitely, we had them check it out, and it's just, they will lose something from there. But the kits that families take out are so beneficial for homeschoolers, a regular family who doesn't homeschool. They've been real popular, and especially this citizen science kit because it's a fun activity. And we loved that they had that the little lenses were included because people were using them for all different reasons. So it was a real lot. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for families. So we would love to acquire more of these kits, more learning kits, because it is hands-on and it's a lot of fun, and it worked really well with our community. And that's
Great. Thank you, Cindy. And actually, there was I will interrupt with one question. There was a question about if these kits are or if they're reserved for homeschool families or if they're open to everyone?
Everyone can check them out. We tell everyone about them. Homeschool families use them just a little bit more because it kind of go coincides with their curriculum that they're doing at home, depending upon the ages. So, but it is a fun family activity.
Great. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, and people do keep adding those questions to the chat, and I'll have some questions after you all present, and then we'll have other opportunities for people to ask questions. Thank you. And so, Nicole, love to hear from your library.
Yes, I am not quite used to being the largest library talking about something. This is a nice change for me. Um, so as I mentioned when I introduced myself and my library, we are a town of just under 6,000 people with 4 homeschooling co-ops. Um, I don't know exactly how many homeschool children we have in town, but I do think it's around half the amount as attends the local elementary school. So lots of homeschoolers. We're also a very outdoorsy community. As Cindy had mentioned, that Antrim is as well. We have a large pond, we have a reservoir, we have woods and walking trails within our town, and then certainly more surrounding us. We're also a still fairly agricultural community, both in terms of family farms and there's now a lettuce growing operation in town. That's not like a code word for marijuana. It's actually what lettuce. Um, Marijuana is still illegal in New Hampshire. Um, so we actually applied for and received all 3 citizen science kits, but I am here to talk to you today about the pollinators kit, which has actually proved to be our most popular one. When I applied for them, I did say we have a lot of homeschoolers. We also are a community that has fairly high blood pressure. There's a thing called Libraries with Heart, which happens when the American Heart Association reaches out to you and says, "Hey guys, do you want free blood pressure cups? Because you guys have a lot of people with high blood pressure." So I applied in part due to our mixture of homeschoolers and also because we definitely have community health issues that maybe could be interesting to investigate. Um, I have never marketed the kits specifically to homeschoolers. I certainly mentioned them maybe more to our homeschooling families, but I was exploring pollinators, got checked out first by a kid who was in public school who had sprained his ankle and was very sad that he could not spend the summer splashing in water. And decided that he was going to go and learn about bees and butterflies, which I thought was lovely. He loved it, absolutely delightful. He told his friends about it. Like Cindy and Barb, I did make some substitutions in my kit because Region 7 is located in Massachusetts. Our kit originally came with things about trees and pollinators of Massachusetts. Lovely. I went to our local-ish indie bookstore and picked up the same guide, but about New Hampshire, and found a home with another library for the Massachusetts items. We recently had a homeschooler science fair, bringing together kids from those 4 different co-ops, and I was delighted to see that some of our citizen science kits were actually used in those projects. And some of the families that did not use them in their projects suddenly discovered those kits existed and were then looking through them going, oh my gosh, how are we going to use this? Maybe not this year. Most of our co-ops do take a break for the summer, but next year, one of them is also a Girl Scout leader and was like, wow, I'm going to use this for Girl Scouts this summer. And then we're using it for homeschool next school year. And they have been used by families with children ranging from 4 to 10 so far, for exploring pollinators and biodiversity, particularly. I really didn't add like storybooks or anything to them. They are part of our library of things just from a replacement cost perspective, because we do have separate discovery kits that are lower cost. Our library of things items can only go out to adult cards, whereas discovery kits can go out to children's cards. And that's more of on our part, making sure we're not holding a minor responsible for a large amount of money if something is damaged or lost.
So just to clarify, so you have both discovery kits and a library of things
Yes, so we have
collection.
our citizen science kits inside of our library of things from a cost perspective. So that has things like our 3 citizen science kits. We have a birding kit that we also got through a grant. And then we also have things like pipe expanders because my neighbors give me wild things when they find out I'm a librarian. Um, and then we have a bunch of discovery kit backpacks, which are made mostly for younger children. They have things like letters, colors, dinosaurs, construction vehicles. We have expanded a little into slightly older kids with things like a biology kit that has a giant foam skeleton puzzle.
That's great. Um,
Oh,
thank
and
you.
fractions. Fractions are surprisingly popular.
That's
That's
good to know because that's one of the kits I'm in the process of making, and I'm wondering if it's going to be a hit or not.
I put in a pizza fraction game, a bunch of measuring cups and measuring spoons for a more hands-on thing, and then some books about fractions targeted at the like 4 to 8 age group. And I see that Sarah has linked our library of things, and I can also give a link to our discovery kits in our catalog.
great. Thank you both. That's great. Yeah, thank you all for getting the conversation started and sharing with us how you're working with your homeschool students in your community. And it just seems like there's lots of opportunity from, you know, having kits available to hosting a science fair and a lot of things, a lot of ways to interact. So thank you. Um, I am going to see actually if Sarah has any questions from the chat that you would want to share.
So there was a good question about marketing the kits and how you went about that, how you got the word out for that. Yeah.
Who would like to start?
I can go.
Okay, Cindy.
So when we received, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So when we received the kit, we actually did a little press release in some of our papers. We list it in our we have a town newspaper that comes out 4 times a year. We'll put it on there. We'll put flyers. We'll contact the school as well. We'll contact homeschool families. We'll put it in our newsletter so everyone is aware of the new things that we have. And some people, it's so funny if they haven't walked into the library in 30 years and they come in and they say, wait, what is this? What's going on here? Because it's libraries have evolved so much in the past 30 years. So it's kind of exciting to put all of this out there just so you can get the feedback from the community um, and and uh, and see if it's positive and negative. But the majority of the time it's positive. It's just exciting to promote something new and exciting.
For my end here at Maxfield, when we got the kit, we have a monthly town newspaper. So we mentioned it in our library update for the month. We have all of our library of things items. They live in storage most of the time, just space wise, but we have taken old CD jewel cases and put a picture of each item in one of those and display those around our DVD area because DVDs are still quite popular for us. Um, and we also have every month on our social media, we pick a different thing from our library of things and spotlight it as on social media, like the first Saturday of the month, as this is our library of things item of the month. Sometimes it's tied to something going on that month or a national observance. And we have now spotlighted all 3 of the kits. The first one that got spotlighted was the air quality kit, which we did timed with the NASCAR race because we have a NASCAR racetrack in town and thought, wow, this would be a great one if someone wants to see how the air quality changes before, during, and after NASCAR race.
So I do similar things. We don't have a newspaper, a local newspaper, but I do a newsletter monthly, and I try to always announce any new one there. And periodically, I will say, "Oh, have you checked out our discovery kits lately?" But probably the best marketing I do is during story time when I do a story time that might relate to something in the kit and then pull out the farm animals or whatever. And I do the same. We have a homeschool group once a month, and I do the same thing for that. And it's hard to believe because there's all these tubs of things sitting around on shelves, and pulled it out during the homeschool group, and it's like, I didn't know you had that stuff. And it's like, what did you think was in these boxes? But it then I have a list of all the different ones too that are at the desk that people can pick up and look at. Um, One thing I was going to say when you asked for the person who asked about homeschoolers, um, the teachers at the local school used to check them out quite often. Unfortunately, this year our local school was closed. So it wasn't so much this year that they were used, but teachers loved them and they would borrow them for their classrooms.
I will add, because Barb mentioned mentioning them at story time. Um, there is every chance I am going to bring these up at story time throughout the summer. We opted here at Maxfield to combine the iRead and CSLP summer reading themes to make DIRT, which stands for Dig Into Reading Today, because between myself and our part-time recruiter of adult programming, we could not decide between dinosaurs and gardening, so we decided that we would do both and thought that dirt was the common theme there.
Which kind of reminds, I mean, this is a total aside, but the polar kit, like, why choose one pole? You can do both. Okay. Sarah, are there any other questions you would, um,
Yeah, so I think this is more of a general citizen science, like the kits and the definition, but there was a question about is there a data collection component with these particular kits? And the question asker added, when I think of citizen science, it is usually in terms of collecting data over large geographic regions for lots of citizen scientists to create one large data set. And so these kits are smaller in scope, but have you guys been doing any of that?
I'll take that one. So on the kit itself, it says required but not included smartphone or tablet, and then air casting app, so that actually if people want to put the apps on their phone and collect the data and contribute it, they can, but it's totally optional. It's not a requirement.
For us, so not mentioned, I guess all of this is that each of these three kits is associated with a ongoing citizen science project that's available through SciStarter. And we have included in all of them, this is how you can find the project online on SciStarter. So you can contribute data directly yourself if you want to download the app, go on the website, etc. They each also have a little like community citizen science notebook you can write in. You guys sent us little teeny tiny ones at first, and we replaced them with larger ones because people said they were too hard to write in, which was fair. And sometimes we will go through, and if people have like included dates in their observations in the notebook, we will add things ourselves. And sometimes people don't write in it, and I like to hope that they're just adding things directly themselves.
We give them the opportunity to extend their findings, but we also have the notepad, like Nicole had mentioned.
So I'm going to jump down because there have been some questions about how you source these. And so we were talking about the ones that came from Region 7, but in general, how are you sourcing these? There's a question about have you ever like requested donations from either Lakeshore Learning, which was mentioned as one of the things, are there other ways that if people are thinking about, you know, um, integrating these into their library, but maybe the budget is a little bit tight, any ideas or things that you have done to really stretch that as far as possible with some of these?
I can start. Um, so we're a very small library. We have 2,600 people in the community. Our budget is so tiny. It really just covers staff salary. Our book budget comes out of a trust fund that we have, that the library has. So everything extra that we want to upgrade in the library, we have to write grants. Um, we use our friends. We have a newly formed friends group since 2020. We also, whenever, if someone passes away and leaves us money from their estate, or if someone just decides to give us a large donation, we used to just give it to the treasurer of the trustees, and they would put it in an account. Now what we do whenever we get that request or that unexpected money, we will write down the amount of money and write everything that we want with that money. And they're usually kits from Lakeshore Learning, or um, sometimes it's to update some technology like a laptop. And then we'll give the treasurer the list with the amount that we were donated. And we noticed that that has really worked for us, even if it's a small donation. We've also, our friends just created a QR code so people can scan and send us money. So we have a Hoopla account, and that's like a separate thing where people will donate to that area. But we've noticed, like, if people donate, we will give them a category, like you can donate to this or this or this, instead of them just donating and just think we use it for anything. We tell them it specifically goes to this, or kits, or whatever they requested. But it's so difficult. It's kind of a joke in the library that we're always begging, like we're always begging.
Well, I'll add to that because I quite honestly, most of our kits are donated items. That's like I mentioned, the ukulele was donated, and so I bought some books to go with it, some music books, and
Mhm,
that's a kit. Recently, somebody just offered me a sewing machine, and I'm trying to think, how can I put that
mhm,
together in a
mhm,
kit? A doctor loved the idea so much of these discovery kits. He gave money to, or she gave money for a doctor's kit
mhm.
because the stipulation was it had to include an operation game because she loved to play operation when she was little, So most of the things the majority are donations from people in the area. Oh, and our one homeschool family moved from Liberty to somewhere in Iowa, and those kids were brilliant, but they were cleaning out their house before the move. She gave the most wonderful things that I then turned into discovery kits.
So Oddly enough, despite being much larger than Cindy, my library's book budget also comes from a trust fund our trustees have. We do have things like a programming budget and other supplies, but we like to use that for programming and supplies. So our discovery kits, the original discovery kits that my predecessor made, I know that she requested funds specifically from the trustees to make those. The ones I have made, we became a family place library through the Sandy River Charitable Foundation's grant for New Hampshire and Maine libraries, and I used some of the money from that grant to make some of our kits. Others, we have three that are based on different games, rather than things like science, and those were made by our local Girl Scout troop,
Oh, that's a great
which
idea. Yeah.
actually also has a lot of overlap with our homeschoolers. Um, so some of those came from Girl Scouts. They sourced and put everything together. And they are really lovely things. Other kits that I've looked at making have been a what do I already have in the library? So I have like 3 containers of these little manipulative counting animals. I already have a colors kit, I already have a math kit, so I'm not entirely sure what these are destined for, but a lot of ours does come from, again, asking for outside funding, things like Rotary clubs. We have a Rotary club that's funding our first ever community-wide read this year, and other service and charitable minded organizations, and applying for grants. The birding kit I mentioned at one point, that came from a SciStarter Flight Path grant. I'm really good at getting grants. Sorry, I have no tips. I'm really good at getting grants.
That's great. Thank you. And you did mention that also people have donated things to your library of things, which is also exciting. And I think both Nicole and Barb mentioned like items that so you had some books that didn't quite fit, and so you gave them to another library. And I know that Barb, you had a similar situation with I believe, a telescope that wasn't circulating, and so you gifted that. So I was hoping, Barb, if you could just mention a little bit about um,
Sure.
that. Yeah.
So there was an organization in Maine that was donating telescopes to libraries, and I applied for one. Um, they do take up space, which we don't have a lot of space, and it did require servicing every now and then, which required a trip to southern Maine to get it serviced. So but it wasn't going out often. And in fact, it was kind of a hassle because kids loved to turn the knobs when it was on the shelf. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a place high enough that they couldn't reach the knobs. But Belfast Library, which is about 20 miles away, they had two of these telescopes, but they were circulating all the time. So I made a deal with them. I said, I'll give you our telescope if Liberty patrons can go and borrow them. So I felt it was a win-win. They had the responsibility of maintaining them and housing them, and it still allowed our patrons to borrow them if they wanted to. They just weren't going out often enough for people to 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 justify the space that they were taking up. So um, you could try doing some kind of partnership with another library too.
It's a great idea. Um, I do want to just stop and thank all of you so much. You're getting thanks in the chat as well for these. I mean, and I totally agree. Such creative ideas, so many like great inspirations for, I think, for all of us. And so thank you to each of you for presenting today and for answering my emails. And so I really appreciate you being here and working with me on this presentation. I am going to ask Sarah if you want to go ahead and put the evaluation link in the chat. So if there are folks who need to go, you can get that link. But also, is there another, I know I'm asking you to do two things at once, Sarah, but is there another question in the chat that you would think we want to make sure to cover before we close today?
Yeah, actually. So I held this one for the end because it's more of a homeschool question and less of a citizen science question. But there was a question about, you know, how you work with the homeschoolers, what you've learned from that, anything you might want other people to know, any um, useful information, best practices, if there's been any friction or things that have gone really well. And, so to sort of close off on the homeschool side of things and less the citizen science kit side of things.
I can,
I'll go. Go ahead, Nicole.
okay, I was gonna say, so for me, part of working with homeschoolers, especially with four homeschool plops, has kind of been communicating with all four of them and figuring out when they're doing things and what schedule they're on. Um, one of them ends their co-op much earlier in the year than another one does. Another co-op is very focused on going on field trips. So with them working and being like, if I'm doing a homeschool event at the library, especially if I want to get those ones where they go on field trips all the time, they do amazing things. I want to go on their field trips. They went to a vet's office that would let kids watch a cat be spayed. That sounds slightly terrifying, but also really cool. And I don't know how they did that. Um, so it's been balancing all of those. And then in terms of finding out what their needs are, some of them trend younger, some of them trend older. And I've found that the ones who trend younger have been much more forthcoming in what they need because it's often, oh, well, we're teaching our kids to read. Oh, well, we're working on like very basic things. Whereas the ones that trend older and maybe have kids in middle and high school as well, they're less sure of how we can help them, or what they can ask of us aside from fulfilling as many interlibrary loans as possible for their diverse needs.
Well, besides materials that we provide, I do a homeschool group once a month. And like I said, I am the only paid person at the library. I don't have a lot of time to do programming. But we have a homeschool group that meets the second Tuesday of the month. And in June, so next Tuesday, we'll actually prepare the topics for next year, September through June. June is always the your choice for a project anyway. But we'll make a schedule, and the schedule is generated from brainstorming from parents and um, homeschool kids that come, that's what they want to do projects about. So each month there's a topic, and it's a very broad topic. They come in and they sign up for when they want to present, and whatever they did with the topic, they present to the group. So they stand in front of the group and have about 10 minutes to tell about their electricity project or whatever. And it's very parent oriented. A lot depends on how much the parents put into the project. Some people work days on it, and other people draw a picture the morning before. But it's a great opportunity to present in front of people, to be a good audience to listen, and to ask questions and answer questions about their project. But many of the homeschooler parents and kids that are part of this group are former people that used to come to story time, and they've kind of outgrown story time. So we already have kind of an established relationship, um, that I think is very crucial, to having this work. I actually just did at the main library conference a presentation, and I have some slides about the homeschool project. If anybody's interested, feel free to email me. I can send you the themes that we did for the last few years. We stopped during COVID, and it was actually parents who came to me and said, "We'd like to get this started again." Um, so um, it's just a homeschool group, and it works out really well, and it takes very little of my time. I call myself a facilitator. I don't,
Mhm.
it's not really a programming thing. I just make it work.
Thanks. Cindy, did you want to add?
I agree with Barb 100%. We listen to the families. We have partnered in the past with literacy groups, and they have given us textbooks for homeschool families because that's one component that we've heard. It's so expensive to constantly update the books. So we partnered with them. We also have privacy. We created a room for homeschoolers or adult literacy, just a private room for them if they all want to get together. But the most important thing is that we are constantly listening to what they're doing, and see how we can support them, the families, the best that we can with our resources. And what's nice about our uh, textbook collection is a lot of the families will donate a textbook after they're done using it. So it's almost like a swap so that another family can pick it up. And we don't have late fees in the library, but we also extend the due date with these materials because we know that they're going to be using them for a few months. But it's just constantly listening and adapting to what they need.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
I do again want to say thank you to Cindy, to Barb, to Nicole for being here. And it just is always so helpful to hear about the creative things that is happening in libraries, to hear from your expertise. And we just um, can't thank you enough. And also the other thing that I keep hearing is just about knowing your community and
Mhm.
listening and hearing, and the how important that has been. And yeah, so just I take inspiration from that, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.